Alright, hello and welcome back to my channel. So I did a sort of fun fact informative video before for Hanukkah, and since tonight is the Seder, I thought I'd do one for Passover, which is obviously another Jewish holiday and actually a much more significant one to the Jewish calendar than Hanukkah or Hanukkah. So yeah, let's get into that. Just really quick before we do a quick housekeeping thing, I know I said I'd have the makeup video reactions up by Wednesday. Editing is taking a bit longer than expected, but I will have all of those up. So yeah, don't freak out. Those will be up, and I'll have the one per month should be caught up pretty soon. But yeah, just thought I'd get that out there. Okay, so 10 fun facts about Passover. Number one, not exactly a fact, but I just thought I'd go over the Passover story briefly because it's not I feel super commonly known to people who aren't Jewish. So yeah, basically the gist of the story is that the Jews were slaves in the land of Egypt, and the Pharaoh was concerned that the Jewish people were going to overthrow him. So he decided to weaken the Jewish people by killing every male baby that was born to the Jews. There was this one boy, Moses, who his sister was sent to drown him in the river because that's what you were supposed to do. But she didn't want to do that, so his sister Miriam, she put him in a little basket and sort of sent him floating along the river, and he got found by the Pharaoh's daughter, who took him in. And he got raised in the Pharaoh's house, didn't even realize that he was one of the Jewish people. He thought he was part of the Pharaoh's family. Then, at one point, he got banished. God spoke to him from a burning bush and said to free the Jewish people, so he went to Pharaoh and was like, free my people. Pharaoh said no, so God sent 10 plagues. Every plague, Pharaoh said no again, so it took 10 before Pharaoh said yes. Your standard stuff, turning the rivers to blood, locusts, hail, normal stuff like that, frogs. But then the final plague was the angel of death came to smite every firstborn son in Egypt. The Jewish people were told to mark their doors with the blood of a lamb so that the angel of death would know to pass over their houses and not take their children. And that's why the holiday is called Passover, because the angel of death passed over the houses of the Jewish people. And yeah, so supposedly killed the firstborn sons of every family in Egypt, and then Pharaoh was like, okay, you can go now. So the Jewish people all left, made it to the Red Sea. Then Pharaoh's like, oh, I changed my mind actually. So he sends people pursuing them. And then God performed a miracle, and through Moses, they split the Red Sea, and the Jewish people just crossed, walking through the sea. And then when Pharaoh's army tried to follow them, the sea closed back up and swallowed them. And then the Jewish people wandered in the desert for 40 years until they found the land of Israel. Now, the historical accuracy of this obviously can be disputed, but that's the story that we tell. It's actually traditionally at the Seder every year that we recount the story, and yeah. So if you didn't know it, that's story, fun stuff. So yeah, this is the first fact. But fact number 2, which is an actual fact. So Passover, you might know, is 8 days, but it's actually only 7 days in Israel, and it's 8 days everywhere else in the world. And the reason for this is because the Torah actually only commands Passover to be 7 days. But in the old days, they used smoke signals to signal when the holidays were supposed to start, and they didn't know, when you got the signal, when exactly the first day was supposed to be, because it's supposed to be on the same day of the Jewish calendar every year. So they always did an extra day just to make sure that they were celebrating the correct 7 days by adding an extra one on. And that's also why it's traditional in a lot of places to have 2 Seders, so that you can have a better chance of getting it on the correct night. Now, obviously, in modern times, you don't need the smoke signals anymore, and you can know that you're on the correct day, but it's still, that tradition is still there. So fact number 3 is about the Seder, which is the special dinner that we have on the first night of Passover. And like I said, some people have another one on the second night to make sure that, you get the day right, although now it's just traditional. So the word Seder means order, and the reason that the dinner is called that is because it's very specifically done in 14 steps. And there's actually a little song to remember the steps that goes, Kadesh Orchat, Karpas Yachat, Magir Achsa, Marzi Matza, Maror Korech, Shulchan Orech, Tzafun Barech, Hallel Nirtzah. And those are the steps of the Seder. So Kadesh, the first step, is the Kiddush. you say the blessings over the wine, the first cup of wine. Then orchatz is a ritual hand washing. Karpas is when you dip vegetables in salt water and then eat it, which I'll get to later, but basically this salt water symbolizes the tears of the Jewish people while they were slaves. Then yachatz is when you break one of the pieces of matzah in half and hide the larger half. We'll talk more about that later. Magid is when we tell the story of Passover, and there's different versions of how you do this step depending on like family traditions, cultural traditions. But yeah. Then there is rachsa, which is another hand washing. Lots of ritual hand washing in Judaism. Then there's motzi matzah, which is when you eat the matzah, which is like one of the very special things that you have to do on Passover. Maror, when you eat the bitter herb. Korech, where you eat the sandwich with the bitter herb. Shulchan Aruch, everyone's favorite part of the Seder, which is the dinner feast. Tafun, where you find and eat the half of the matzah that was hidden earlier. Barech, where you say the blessings over the food. Hallel, where you say more blessings and prayers. And Nirtzah, which is when you sing the songs that conclude the Passover Seder. So yeah, those are the important steps of the Seder. Fact number 4 is about the number 4, which is important to the holiday Passover, specifically to the Seder. So over the course of the meal, over the 14 steps at various points, you're supposed to drink 4 glasses of wine, which, yes, is kind of a lot of wine. Some people use grape juice. My family usually uses grape juice. Personally, I don't like the taste of wine, so I do that. Then also, the number 4 comes up in the story when you talk about there's these 4 children, and not everyone says this, but it is a traditional thing. There's the wise child, the wicked child, the simple child, and the child who does not know how to ask questions, and it describes how you're supposed to tell the story of Passover to each of these children, and how you're supposed to explain the holiday. Then there's the 4 questions, which are supposed to be asked by the youngest child present who is capable of asking the questions, which was me for just a couple of years, and then my brother got old enough to do it, and then I got a little annoyed because I'd practice real hard for them. But basically the 4 questions talk about ways that the Seder night is different from all other nights. Because it opens with Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halaylot, which is asking why is this night different from all other nights, and then you give reasons like you're supposed to recline back instead of sitting up, because it's representing how we're now free and no longer slaves in Egypt. Why we eat the bitter herb instead of vegetables. Why we don't eat bread and only eat matzah. And then why we dip vegetables in the salt water. And then basically you launch into the story and that explains why you do those things. So yeah, that's number 4 is very present in the Seder. Fact number 5 is about the Seder Plate, which is represented here. So the different things on the Seder Plate, there is the maror, which is the bitter herb, which represents the bitterness of slavery. There's charoset, which is a sweet mixture that's supposed to represent the mortar and the bricks that the Jewish people used to build things while they were slaves. There's the bone of a lamb, which is called the Pesach offering, which is the Hebrew name for the holiday Passover is Pesach. And the reason it's called that is because this represents the offerings that were made by the priests of ancient Judaism. There is an egg, which also represents both an offering and also the cycle of life. And then there is another vegetable, which is what you dip into the salt water, which sort of represents the initial prosperity of the Jewish people in the land of Egypt. So those things on the plate all have their meanings. And then fact number 6 is about the Afikomen, which I mentioned earlier, that these of matzah that you break and then hide part of. So there's different versions of this tradition. In my family, the way we always do it is the adults hide the Afikomen, which is the larger half of the matzah that you break, and the children have to go and find it, and then once they find it, they're supposed to get something from the parents for finding it, like a prize or something. Some families do where the children hide it and then the adults have to find it, so it depends on the family. But basically, the reason why the finding is a thing is because you are not allowed to end the Seder until you have eaten the Afikomen. So it's sort of kind of like you barter with, if the kids are finding it, they barter with the adults, you can't end this dinner until you give us a prize. It's kind of the tradition. So yeah, that's sort of a fun little game that's played. Fact number 7 is about Elijah. So Elijah is a prophet in Judaism, and basically what the tradition is that there's a 5th cup of wine that you pour out, and then you leave it out for Elijah. And the theory is that he's supposed to visit every house on Passover and drink that cup of wine, and you're supposed to leave the door open for him. And yeah, that in theory happens. Sometimes when the kids aren't looking, the parents will pour out the wine and say Elijah drank it. Or maybe Elijah really did drink it, who's to say. But yeah, that's the little tradition. Fact number 8. You might know this about Passover. It's one of the bigger known things, but Jewish people are not allowed to eat bread or any bread products on Passover. So like no bread, no pasta, crackers, anything like that. Nothing that's leavened is the rule. And the reason for this is that when the Jewish people were fleeing slavery in Egypt, they supposedly did not have time to grab their bread, like to finish baking their bread in the oven, so they just had to grab it as it was, and it didn't have time to rise. So you can only eat matzah, which is like a form of bread, but it's made so that it doesn't rise, and therefore it's like hard and brittle and like flat. And yeah, you can't eat anything that's a leavened bread product. And then there's also something called kitniot, which is something that's like similar to flour, which used to be like we couldn't eat that either, but then this like leading council of rabbis for Ashkenazi Jews said that now conservative Ashkenazi Jews can eat that. So now it's like my family does because that's what we follow. Some people still don't eat kitniot. That's like corn, rice, anything that like I guess is like a similar shape to flour. But yeah, so that's the thing. But that was only like because it was similar to flour. It's actually like the leavened bread is the only thing that like is directly said in the Torah, like you can't eat this. So yeah. Fact number 9, I mentioned songs earlier, but this is something a lot of people like don't really know. Like Hanukkah is like known for having songs, but Passover also has a lot of songs. One of them, which is sort of a part of the telling of the Passover story, is Dayenu. Dayenu is a song about like all the things God did for the Jewish people. It's kind of repetitive. The chorus goes, Dayenu, 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 which, as you might be able to guess, can get annoying when you do it over and over again. It's kind of become a tradition for me that I kind of like the song, so I kind of annoy my parents by wanting to do more verses, and they just kind of want to do the first verse, skip to the end, because it like builds up each verse, so they kind of just want to do the first one, skip to the end, but I always want to do more a little bit, but it is a song that like kind of annoys people. Then the other songs that we sing later, there's Chad Gadya, which always a little bit freaked me out as a child. Because like it's about this goat, right? That this that the like singer's father bought for 2 zuzim, and then a cat ate the goat, right? Then a dog ate the cat. Then a stick killed the dog. Then the fire burned the stick. Then the water poured out the fire. An ox drank the water. The butcher killed the ox. The angel of death killed the butcher. And then God smote the angel of death. So it's like the order of the things that happen in the song. And like it's another one where the verses build up. They're actually kind of all like that. I don't really know why exactly, but it's just, yeah. And yeah, it always kind of weirded me out as a child, just because, like, the whole, like, all the animals dying, but, yeah, it's a little weird. That one goes, like, the chorus goes, Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. So, yeah, it's fun. And then there's, Echad Miodea, which goes, Echad Miodea, Echad Aniodea. And that one, is, like, talking about numbers and how, like, each number represents something for the Jewish people. So, Echad is 1, it's, like, who knows 1. And 1 represents there's only one God. 2 represents the 2 tablets of the 10 Commandments. 7 days of the week. There's a lot of them, but 5 is the books of the Torah. I'm not going to go through all of them. Basically, it goes up to 13, and each one represents something important for the like Jewish religion. So yeah, it was a nice song. There's a couple more, but those are like the main ones that, at least for me, like those are the ones when I think of Passover, I think of those songs. Yeah, and then number 10, the final fact, is fitting for the final one because it's how we close off the Seder. Traditionally, we end it with L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, which means next year in Jerusalem. And This basically is representing the hope of the Jewish people, because for a very long time, right after we'd been exiled by the Romans from Israel, like the Jews were living in the diaspora, so it was a tradition like to hope to always go back to Israel and like be able to like go back to our ancestral homeland. So you would always say next year in Jerusalem, representing the hope that next year we would like find our way back to our old home and our old country and lands. And even though obviously the state of Israel has been established now, like it's no longer like quite the same. Like we're not forced out of that land anymore. It's still like a tradition. You say that so as to represent like hope for good things. It kind of in part represents like wanting Israel to remain strong and defended, but it also can just mean like wanting a better world for Jewish people and kind of for everyone. The interpretation kind of varies like by person to person, but it's just like it's general good wishes is what it means. So, you know, that's how we end off the Seder, because we want good wishes. So good wishes to all of you, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this sort of fun facts video, let me know, because I can totally do more of them in the future. I've only done the 2 so far, obviously, but if you like this, I'll totally do more. They're kind of fun. And yeah, so if you like the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!